The gas station incident. It was around midnight when I decided to stop for gas on my way home from a long shift. The road was quiet, barely any cars in sight, and the gas station was one of those run-down, dimly lit ones just off the highway. Normally, I would have kept driving, but my tank was nearly empty, so I pulled in. I immediately felt uneasy as I parked at the pump. The fluorescent lights overhead flickered, casting a faint glow over the deserted lot. I told myself it was just exhaustion, that my mind was playing tricks on me. But then I noticed him. A man stood by the door of the gas station's convenience store, leaning against the wall, his face mostly hidden by the shadow. He wasn't doing anything, just standing there watching. My instincts screamed at me to leave, but I needed the gas. So, I started the pump and kept an eye on him, my heart hammering in my chest. I was thinking, just keep calm. He's probably just waiting for a ride or something. No big deal. I could feel his eyes on me, every second dragging on like an eternity. Then, out of nowhere, he moved slow and deliberate, walking toward me. My stomach dropped. "Hey," he called out in a raspy voice, "you got a cigarette?" I shook my head without even looking at him, pretending to be focused on the pump. But he didn't leave. Instead, he took a few steps closer, and that's when I realized he had a knife, barely visible, but glinting under the flickering light. My pulse went wild. I started planning my escape. The pump was still going, and my car was between us. He was close enough now that I could smell him, a mix of sweat and something metallic like blood. I said, "You got a cigarette?" He repeated, his voice growing colder, more threatening. The way he gripped the knife told me that this wasn't about cigarettes at all. This guy wanted trouble. Without thinking, I grabbed the pump nozzle, yanked it out of my tank, and pointed it at him. Gasoline splashed onto his jeans, and for a moment, we both froze. I could feel the weight of what might happen next, the gas, the fumes, the knife in his hand. My mind raced with the thought, if he lunges at me, I'm lighting him up. I don't care what happens next. "Get back!" I shouted, my voice shaking but loud enough to cut through the dead air. He hesitated, eyes narrowing like he was weighing his options. Then, I heard a door slam behind me. The gas station attendant stepped out, and it broke the tension just enough. The man cursed under his breath and backed away, quickly disappearing into the night, leaving me standing there, still gripping the nozzle. The attendant didn't even seem to notice the guy had a knife, just gave me a weird look and asked if I was going to pay inside or with my card. I paid and drove off, but the whole drive home, I kept glancing in my rearview mirror, half expecting that guy to come tearing down the road after me. For weeks, I couldn't sleep right. Every time I stopped at a gas station, my heart would race, and I'd scan every shadow, every figure nearby. That man's face still haunts me. The way he walked toward me, how close I came to setting him on fire just to survive. It's strange. You never think you'll be in one of those moments where life or death hangs on a thread. But when it happens, it changes you forever. I still get chills just thinking about it. The way that situation escalated so quickly, and how close I was to making a life or death decision. That night, I realized how fragile safety really is. Story 2. The trucker's last delivery. I've been driving trucks for over a decade, hauling everything from furniture to produce, and I've seen my fair share of weird stuff on the road. But this night still haunts me. I was hauling a load across the Midwest, and my route took me through some of the most desolate stretches of highway you could imagine. It was one of those moonless nights where the only light came from my headlights cutting through the darkness. No cars, no rest stops, just miles and miles of empty road. I was about 2 hours from my destination when I noticed something strange. Up ahead, barely visible in the distance, was a figure standing on the side of the road. As I got closer, I could make out more details. A man, maybe in his 40s, standing beside a broken-down car. He was waving his arms, trying to flag me down. Normally, I don't stop for hitchhikers or stranded motorists, but something about this guy made me feel uneasy. He wasn't just waving, he was frantic. I slowed down, but I didn't pull over right away. I've heard too many horror stories about people getting ambushed this way, so I kept my distance and rolled down the window slightly as I came to a stop. "Hey man, I need help," he shouted, his voice barely audible over the rumble of my engine. "My wife, she's hurt. Please, you gotta help me." I looked at his car, a beat-up old sedan, barely lit by my headlights. The front passenger door was open, and I could see someone slumped in the seat. My gut twisted. This wasn't right. Still, what if he was telling the truth? What if someone was really hurt and needed help? I grabbed my flashlight, keeping my hand near the tire iron I kept behind the seat, and stepped out of the truck. I kept my distance as I approached the car, shining the light inside. Sure enough, there was a woman in the passenger seat, her head lolled to the side, not moving. "Please," the man begged. "She's not breathing. Help me get her out." I was about to get closer when something stopped me, an instinct, maybe. I shifted the beam of my flashlight to the man's hands, and that's when I saw it. He had a knife tucked in his waistband, barely visible, but it was there. My heart started pounding, and I took a step back, trying to keep my voice steady. "What happened to her?" He hesitated, just for a split second, but it was enough. "Car crash," he stammered. "We hit something. I don't know what, but she's hurt bad." I didn't believe him. There was no sign of a crash, no damage to the front of the car, no skid marks on the road. This was a setup. I was sure of it now. "I'll call for help," I said, slowly backing away toward my truck. "I've got a CB radio. I can get someone out here in minutes." His face changed then, the desperation replaced by something darker, something predatory. "No need for that," he muttered, pulling the knife from his waistband. "Why don't you just help me out here, driver?" I turned and bolted back to my truck, heart racing. I could hear him running after me, his footsteps crunching on the gravel shoulder. My hands fumbled for the door handle, but I managed to get inside and slam it shut just as he reached the side of the cab. He started pounding on the window with the knife, shouting at me to get out. I threw the truck into gear, and the tires squealed as I tore down the road, leaving the man and his broken-down car in the dust. My hands were shaking so badly that I could barely keep the wheel steady, but I didn't stop. Not until I reached the next town, lights from a gas station glowing like a beacon in the distance. I pulled in, parked, and locked the doors, my heart still thundering in my chest. After a few deep breaths, I grabbed my phone and called the local sheriff, explaining what had just happened. They sent a deputy out to the area, but when they got there, the car and the man were gone. No trace of them. Just an empty stretch of road like nothing had ever happened. A few days later, I heard from a buddy of mine, another trucker who'd been driving through that same area. He told me a similar story about a man with a broken-down car, waving for help. Only this time, the trucker didn't get away. They found his rig a few miles down the road, abandoned. He was never seen again. They never caught the guy, never found out what happened to that woman in the passenger seat, if there ever was a woman at all. All I know is I'm never stopping for anyone on the side of the road again. Not after what I saw that night. It's crazy how something as simple as a broken-down car on the side of the road can turn into a life-or-death situation. You never really know who's out there or what they want. Story 3. The Wrong Turn. It was supposed to be a quick trip. I had taken this back road a few times before, quiet, isolated, but faster than the highway. I was driving late that night after visiting a friend, maybe a little too tired for a road this deserted, but I was determined to get home. Just me, my car, and the endless stretch of road ahead. About halfway through the trip, I noticed something odd. A car was behind me, but it wasn't just following. The headlights would dip out of view, then reappear closer, as if the driver was speeding up and slowing down like they were sizing me up. I brushed it off at first. Probably just someone messing around, or maybe they're lost, I thought. But the longer it went on, the more uneasy I became. After about 10 minutes of this, I reached a fork in the road. I knew one direction led deeper into the rural area, long, winding roads with no lights and even fewer people. The other path was a straight shot to the main road, well lit, and close to a police station. Instinctively, I turned toward the main road, thinking the car would finally leave me alone. But it didn't. That's when my stomach dropped. The car behind me sped up, fast. They were right on my bumper now, headlights flashing. I couldn't see their face, but I could feel their presence looming, aggressive. Why are they doing this? I sped up, gripping the wheel tighter. But no matter how fast I went, they stayed on me, their headlights burning into my rearview mirror. I couldn't shake them. My heart pounded, hands slick with sweat. Okay, this is not normal. This is not just some jerk on the road. This person is chasing me. Up ahead, I spotted a small gas station, the kind you only see in rural areas, dimly lit, a single car parked outside. I figured I could pull in, make them think I was stopping, then double back toward the highway once they passed. It wasn't much of a plan, but I had to try something. As soon as I pulled into the station, the car behind me screeched to a stop right across the entrance, blocking my way out. I froze. They had trapped me. Just think. My mind raced. The gas station seemed deserted except for the single car parked by the side, its lights off. I quickly locked my doors, scanning my surroundings. I could see the driver now, stepping out of the vehicle. It was a man, tall, heavy-set, and moving with a deliberate slowness, like he had all the time in the world. He was grinning. He didn't say a word as he approached my car, just stood there for a moment, peering in, tapping lightly on my window. I didn't roll it down. There was no way I was letting him get any closer. My hands were shaking as I reached for my phone, dialing 911, hoping to get through. The operator answered, and I gave my location, trying to keep my voice steady. Stay calm. Just stay calm, I thought. The man outside still hadn't said anything, but now he was circling the car, tapping each window with his knuckle. A few moments later, he pulled something from his pocket, a wrench. He was going to break the window. I remember thinking, this is it. This is where it ends. But just as he raised the wrench, headlights flooded the lot. Another car had pulled in, some random guy who had stopped for gas. The man outside froze, his expression changing from smug confidence to irritation. He glanced at me one last time, then quickly walked back to his car, got in, and sped off into the night. The guy who pulled in didn't even notice what had just happened. He probably thought I was just waiting there or resting. As soon as I was sure the other car was gone, I floored it out of there, heart pounding, breath coming in shallow gasps. I never got a good look at the man's face, but I'll never forget the grin he had, the kind that tells you they're in control, and they know it. When the police finally arrived after I reported the incident, they checked the area but didn't find anything. Just tire tracks in the dirt, leading off into the dark. They said it could have been a prank or maybe just someone trying to scare me. But I knew better. That man had something else in mind, and if that other car hadn't shown up when it did, I don't know if I would have made it out. The scariest part? That was months ago, and to this day, I keep thinking that man is out there somewhere, driving those same empty roads, waiting for the next car to follow. If you enjoyed these stories, please like and subscribe. Also, check out my other videos.